From elves stuck in gloves to elves in the Wild West, these 20 elf on the shelf moments caught on camera will leave you in shock.
Like this video and subscribe in the next 5 seconds, or this spider will be crawling around your bed while you sleep tonight.
In this clip, an elf on the shelf was caught on camera playing by itself around the house, a classic moving elf on the shelf. In this clip, we have a really smart elf who noticed that a security camera was recording him at night, so he decided to just pick it up and do a little elf vlog, recording himself walking around the house. This recording was a perfect gift for the family, and the elf must have put so much effort into it, because think about it, a camera is so heavy for the little elf, carrying around the house must have been really difficult. Prepare yourself because the elf on the shelf is about to, well, poop. I'm not kidding, and that's not even the craziest part, because this guy decided to prank their elf on the shelf by leaving some chocolate-covered raisins in a jar to kind of trick the elf into eating them. But the most insane thing happens at the end, so make sure to keep on watching. This clip shows an elf who used his powerful abilities to sneak into the kitchen and get his favorite treat. If you didn't know, every elf on the shelf has a huge sweet tooth, so their diet is just cinnamon, rock sweets, and obviously Skittles. As you'll see, this elf had the power to lift the massive box to the top shelf and grab some candy, so keep on watching. After seeing this clip, we've concluded that there couldn't be any other stranger elf on the shelf caught on camera clips on the internet. In the clip, an elf on the shelf was caught redecorating the kitchen of its owners, and it's not the kind of decoration you'd ever expect to see anywhere. We think we found the greatest elf prankster ever. For the residents of this house, elves on the shelf might not be on the budget for next Christmas, and we can't blame them, and neither will you after watching this clip. Their elf on the shelf clearly enjoys throwing tantrums and making his opinions known by trashing his owner's kitchen, opening shelves and fridges, and rearranging everything inside, then dumping them on the ground. This girl woke up one morning to find a note left by her elves saying they were going to hide in the nearby forest. Luckily, the note included the GPS coordinates for the owner to find her elves. She started walking towards the coordinates and ended up finding not just her elves, but also a plethora of other dolls and toys. Her elves probably hosted some sort of forest party for the toys in her closet, and it's just amazing. The elf noticed that his owners were trying to capture him moving on camera, but instead of sitting still and not moving at all, he decided to wave at the camera, giving us this wonderful clip. Two elves on the shelf were caught moving on camera and having a string showdown on their own. It's hard to know who will win between the two, so pick your fighter and keep on watching till the end. In this clip, you can see a group of baby elves being stuck inside a glove. We can only wonder how they ended up there, but luckily their owner noticed it in time and managed to save them by cutting the glove open. Also, notice that she herself is wearing a magical glove, which allows her to touch her elves without them losing their magic powers. Remember, you can only touch your elves if you're wearing such gloves. In the first clip, the family elf Carol was being asked by one of the family members to tell Santa they've been really good this year so they could receive great gifts from Santa. But then came the unbelievable. Carol responded with what we think is a yes by moving her eyes in the other direction. Now, according to the family, Carol arrived at their home on December 1st, and just 7 days before Christmas, she moved her eyes, causing them to get scared, but no one should be afraid of elves, they're friendly creatures after all. In December 2013, an office was explored by an elf on the shelf, and it was caught wandering around with 4 surveillance cameras. The team was able to observe every inch of movement from the elf, which roamed all around the office, checking out the Christmas lights and other decorations. Finally, camera 4 catches the elf moving into another room and coming back holding a piece of paper, which is a scan of itself. The elf probably thought that's how humans take selfies. This one's really crazy, guys. So this kid thought of pranking his elf on the shelf by pretending to leave the room. Little did the elf on the shelf know he was under surveillance and his every move was being recorded. Some elves are easier to trick than others, but we should always love our elves even if they're not moving. Now we have a clip showing a baby elf riding around in a tiny toy car when the elf discovers one of her fellow elves locked inside of a vault cage. The owner is shocked to see one of her cutest elves being locked and starts looking for the culprit, but none of the elves confess, so maybe it was an evil elf on the shelf that locked up this one. Let's check the clip out. Okay, you won't be able to convince me any longer that these elves did not develop a taste for cereal at this point due to the fact that this family has heard noises coming from the cereal boxes the night before. The family was determined to find out what the elf was up to and trapped him before it could get away. So the next day, they decided to set up a camera in order to catch their elf in the act. The hunch was correct, and he was actually hanging out and snacking on some sugar cookie cereal, but more than that, he appears to be in a state of limbo, and that's what you get for being a glutton. Anyway, let's have a look at this clip and see what happens at the end.
Elf lying. In this clip, a hidden camera caught an elf on the shelf moving, but not only that, the elf is seen flying around the house on what seemed to be a magical skateboard before finally finding a place to rest. That's just amazing to see, don't you think? Elf waving. This elf noticed that his owners were trying to capture him moving on camera, but instead of sitting still and not moving at all, he decided to wave at the camera, gifting us this wonderful clip. Wardrobe hide. One thing about elves on the shelf is that they'll always start moving from place to place if you put them in a spot where they're not feeling comfortable, especially since those elves with special powers help them move around the house more easily. In this clip, an elf on the shelf is seen moving from one place to another, probably looking for a nicer spot to rest. Elves caught working. This clip captured a day in the lives of 3 elves on the shelf, from working around the house to giving a haircut to their friend Barbie. That's an insane clip that shows a lot of details on how the elves spend their free time, so let's take a look. Elf waving and hiding. A YouTuber named Nicholas Bradley uploaded a clip of his elf on the shelf doing what most elves do, avoiding the camera at all costs. Unfortunately for the elf, The camera captured most of his movements, well, until it spotted the camera itself, hiding behind the cam. In a twisted turn of events, an elf on the shelf decided to reveal itself and got caught on camera moving, but only on its own terms, moving enough for the camera to capture its movement, but also hiding from the camera. Young kid. This little child who wanted to catch an elf on the shelf takes a weird turn because not even the kid can figure out what the elf is doing. The elf captured in this clip is really a strange fellow, and his behavior is peculiar to say the least. Kid catches elf on the shelf flying and moving. Now this kid was practically informing his father that he did not believe in elf on the shelf's existence, and we can't blame him because these days many people don't believe in magical elves. Anyway, the kid was telling his father that he doesn't believe it and he has no idea what he was talking about. When he returned to his room, an elf on the shelf actually emerged and began flying around. Then, the elf on the shelf began to perform various additional actions. Now obviously it's just flying around the house and flying around his room, but something crazier happens at the end of the clip, so stay tuned for that. Disappearing elf. This kid was introducing their elf on the shelf named Jingle, and later he leaves the elf in front of the camera in an attempt to capture it moving on video. Naturally, it does indeed move, and then it vanishes into thin air. But just think for a second, what if the elves simply didn't move at all while the video was being recorded? That would be extremely embarrassing for those attempting to catch them, but luckily, this clip is a success. Elf on the sink. The elf on the shelf was caught red-handed carrying herself in the kitchen. In this clip, the elf takes her time walking between the dishes, then turns on the faucet and relaxes for a moment. But then, she takes to the air and flies right in front of the camera. That's when she probably noticed the camera and did what she did at the end. Naughty elf gets caught. Elf on the shelf really loves standing and clinging onto Christmas trees, so it's not a surprise that this elf on the shelf decided to go for the family's Christmas tree even if he gets caught by the family's surveillance cameras. Let's see how amazing this elf gets his way to the top of the Christmas tree. Trust me, it's truly amazing. Elf on the stairs. This clip shows 3 to 4 elves and a Spider-Man toy sitting on an empty strawberry carton, while a super rare black elf is pushing them from behind until the carton starts sliding down the stairs as if it was a sled. It looks super fun, but they end up crashing terribly at the bottom of the staircase. These elves are super naughty because they're supposed to be investigating the children and see if they're acting good enough to get the gifts from Santa. But who's looking over the elves? If someone would send this clip to Santa, these elves would definitely get fired, so let's check it out. The Kitchen Elf. This one is one of the craziest clips proving that elves on the shelf exist. So, the camera was placed in the kitchen and was well positioned to see the elf move from its place to the sink. At first, you'll wonder what the elf wants as it dances around the tap, but your questions are answered right now when the elf turns the water on and the tap starts running. It keeps causing chaos until it notices that there's a hidden security camera recording his crimes. So, the elf thinks quick and goes straight to the camera to turn it off and delete the evidence. Guys, just see for yourself. The Mystery Black Elf. Elves on the shelf usually wear red clothes, but there are actually clothes that other colors have, like green or even black, which is the rarest. Apparently, these black elves have the strongest magical powers, and in this clip, the elf was caught trying to steal Skittles from the kitchen counter. The family put a bag of Skittles right in front of the camera, hoping the elf would fall for the bait. The elf had problems opening the door, but eventually reached the Skittles and got caught by the person behind the camera. However, the elf just teleported out of his hand and escaped the dangerous situation. The creepy elves. Catching an elf blinking, smiling, and making faces on camera is a really big deal. The movement of elves could be rumored as fake, but this facial movement could never be seen as such, so this clip is truly something. The camera was placed directly in front of the two elves, a normal elf and a clown elf. The normal elf was the first to move. It smiled and half closed its eyes into a semi-wink, as if in a competition with the clown elf. That one spread its mouth into a wider smile with glowing eyes. The normal elf looked into the camera to smile again before it moved away from the camera. The last thing we can say is that while clown elves are usually scary for kids, in reality they are as cute as normal elves, so don't be afraid. The Upside Down Elf. According to the rules of Elves on the Shelf, kids are not allowed to touch them. This rule must have been implemented for the safety of these living elves. Maybe these elves actually go extinct, so it's never a good idea to touch them. This clip was filmed with someone actively present because we can see the person recording is playing with the elf's hat. This is a really bad idea, but in the end, the person got what he wanted because the elf eventually reacted and blinked. Mom catches the elf in the kitchen. So basically, this mom was having some suspicions about her elf because it would be placed at one spot and then the next morning it would be found at another place around the home. If you want to catch your own elf, make sure to listen closely to what I'm about to say because this mom shows the best tips and tricks for catching the elf. At first, she shows us that the elf is sitting silently on the Christmas tree. Then, she proceeds to show us what seems to be the elf's door to the North Pole, which teleports it back to Santa Claus. That's the spot where you have to put your camera at because the elf will probably be trying to go back to Santa. So, the next morning, she sets up two cameras in the living room and the kitchen, and as expected, the elf goes down the tree and, you guessed it, to the little door. Bored Elf. This one's really crazy, guys, so the kid thought of pranking his elf on the shelf by pretending to leave the room. Little did the elf on the shelf know that the boy was under surveillance and that his every move is being recorded. Some elves are easier to trick than others, but we should love our elves even if they're not moving. Elves teleporting multiple times. I've noticed that these elves love teleporting back and forth a lot. The first clip shows elves named Marshmallow and Mocha chilling in the wreath, and you can see them glittering all around. They were caught at 4 in the morning, and can you see the first teleportation? The owner of the footage claims to have seen the two elves teleporting back and forth, possibly reporting to Santa. Let's see more of the satisfying teleportation. They caught the elves not only moving and flying, but also talking and laughing with the hamsters. They could only record this event with high-tech cameras because normal cameras usually can't capture the magic of the elves. This is a really rare clip. Elf Unbothered. It appears that the family's suspicions about the elf on the shelf have increased, and they believe that he's likely roaming around the house. And in order to provide him with a little light, they propped him up in front of the laptop because they had to turn all the lights down in order for the elf to believe they're sleeping. And scary enough, it moved its head in a strange way, which is going to impress you a lot, so let's check out the clip. Mischievous Darn Elf. This elf played so many pranks on this family, and you're in for an adventure. In the first few seconds of the video, the elf starts things off by sliding down the stairs and onto the fire truck toy. Then, it drives through the family's living room, and the lights begin to rapidly turn off and on. But that's not the craziest part. The elf goes on to climb up on top of the fireplace and, well, unhooks the family socks. This elf is just so mischievous, but because of that, we have this great clip to show you, so make sure you keep on watching until the end. Elf caught red-handed. This clip shows elves on the shelf caught red-handed at the scene of their crime. It's the second day of Thanksgiving, and these elves must have been angry about not getting an invite to eat because they ended up breaking into the family fridge and having a feast. We can learn from this clip that it's better to just invite your elves to Thanksgiving because they might get their piece of dinner one way or the other. Bored elf. So this kid thought of pranking his elf on the shelf by leaving the room so the elf would get tricked and think that no one is watching him and he could turn alive. But little did he know, there were hidden cameras recording his actions. Just have to see what the elf decides to do at the end of this clip. Elf on the shelf caught jumping. This clip shows an elf on the shelf that was captured jumping up and down and moving from one place to another. It probably had a restless night, but eventually it got tired and found a place to rest. Vlogging elf. Now this elf probably wants to be a YouTube vlogger instead of working for Santa, because this clip is seemingly recorded by the elf himself by carrying the camera that was left next to it. The elf probably understood that his owner wants to capture it moving, so the elf decided to make him a favor and record his entire walk throughout the house. Elf caught raising hand. This clip shows an elf on the shelf that was caught sitting calmly on top of the bed before starting to raise its hand. Maybe it had a question to ask, who knows? Evil elves. This kid woke up and started vlogging his day when he came to the kitchen to find his father on the ground lying unconscious. The kid got super scared, and then he noticed that one of their elves is sitting right next to the father, and the elf has a bottle in his hands, meaning that the elf has become evil and attacked the father by hitting his head with a bottle. When the kid woke up his dad, they noticed another elf sitting on the kitchen counter, something much more dangerous than the bottle. So let's take a look.
What happened? What happened?
Are you filming me?
Yeah. The elf thought
took
you
out
were
the
cool.
trash.
Look, the elf thought you out.
Ah! That's what hit me in the head! That's what he hit me in the back of the head! I just got whacked by sparkling apple cranberry! He's trying to kill me! Oh my god, okay. Huge headache. I got whacked in the back of the head with this thing by Elfie. I was taking out the trash. What? 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 Oh my god! Run! Go, 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 go!
Elves caught dancing. Who knew that elves like to dance? Not just dance, but also at a pace such as these elves. If you can, try moving your legs as quickly as these cute elves and you'll see how difficult it really is. Elf teleporting in the dark. It's said that mysterious things happen in the dark, and this clip shows one such example because a mom who recorded it captured this fascinating moment of her elf on the shelf using magic to fly and teleport all over the place. This is truly amazing.
In this clip, you'll see a cheeky elf on the shelf using a small snow machine inside a house to, well, make snow. More experienced elves can use magic to conjure snow, but this one's probably a younger one who just wanted to have some fun with a snow machine. Let's check it out. This elf on the shelf really loves standing and clinging to Christmas trees. It's not a surprise that this one decides to go for the family's Christmas tree, even if he gets caught by the family surveillance cameras. Let's see how this amazing elf finds his way up the Christmas tree. Now, watch the following clip to see the most badass elf you've ever seen. He went to get some Fruit Loops in the morning when the rest of the family was still sleeping, and the boy who caught him just got so annoyed by what the elf did. The elf even grabbed the marshmallows on the table, so he must be really missing the sweets from the North Pole. In a twisted turn of events, an elf on the shelf decided to reveal itself and it got caught on camera moving, but only on its own terms, moving enough for the camera to capture its movement but also hiding from the camera. Now we have two cheeky elves. These are so incredible and were recorded by a camera just being adorable. One of them appears to be super shy, but sometimes smiles a bit, and you can see the other one in the back start to move. Elves on the shelf are truly wonderful creatures, so remember to behave well, and not just with your elves, but also with your friends, family, and even strangers. Elves on the shelf show that they're not selfish creatures, at least as shown by the elf in this next clip. The elf on the shelf was captured on camera laying a blanket on the cold floor for the other two dolls in the house and even for the car toy. Now that's a caring elf. We can only hope that it also takes care of its owners. Prepare yourself because the elf on the shelf is about to, well, poop. I'm not kidding, and that's not even the craziest part because this guy decides to prank their elf on the shelf by leaving some chocolate-covered raisins in a jar to kind of trick the elf into eating it, but the most insane thing ends up happening, so make sure to stick around and see for yourself. So this YouTuber was flying his drone around the playground near his house looking to capture some beautiful winter footage, but he got shocked when an elf on the shelf appeared in the frame. Apparently, the elf jumped off the ground and latched onto the drone. You can see his little elf legs wiggling around, and eventually we can see the entire face of this elf. It's an amazing clip showing that elves on the shelf can be captured moving, not just inside the house but also outside, so let's check it out. A kid and her mom caught their elf on the shelf moving on camera by a lucky accident, but in this clip, the elf was seen climbing down from the top of the wall to first rest under the pillows and then suddenly reappear to start moving towards the camera. The elf even seems to be smiling at the end, so let's check it out. This clip shows one of the elves driving a super expensive sports car. Obviously, it's a toy car because no elf on the shelf is large enough to drive a normal car, but it's just crazy to think that they know how to drive, and it shows that elves on the shelf have many different talents. The elf on the shelf in this next clip will rather choose to play hide and seek in the kitchen than stay put in one position. Let's check it out. This guy was flying his drone around the neighborhood when he came upon an elf on the shelf at the playground. Who knew that the elves also like spending their time there? But that's not all, because the elf starts moving and even uses a magic trick to vanish into thin air before reappearing soon after and testing out one of the slides. Keep on watching. This is probably one of those elves on the shelf caught on camera clips that we've been scratching our heads about in confusion. While we're still trying to adjust to elves on the shelf moving, now we have to see them create extra legs from sneakers to walk around and run in the house. Confused? Check out this confusing clip for yourself, maybe you'll figure it out. One of the most famous Christmas songs was playing in the background when this little elf was seen dancing. It sure looks like fun. The elf on the shelf is raising its small arms in the air and dancing about the home, but first it checks to see whether anyone's watching. As soon as the song ends, the elf returns to its cozy corner under the warm Christmas tree. After all, that's the favorite resting spot of all elves. The elf on the shelf got super mad at the kids for making it angry, and it discovered sitting and flipping off the kids. The elf even left a note explaining that it's angry because the kids were behaving badly towards it, and well, while the elf should be setting a good example for the kids to follow, we can't blame it for losing its temper. For the elf on the shelf in this clip, nighttime means playtime. In this clip, an elf on the shelf is seen moving around trying to wake up its sleeping friends. After a long time of disturbance, it finally falls on its friends and joins the sleeping camp. Elves also need rest. Our next elf on the shelf caught on camera shows an elf trying to find the right position for it to either sit or rest. The elf is seen moving towards the sink before moving away and then trying to rest on the counter before changing its mind again, and that must have been when it spotted the camera that was recording its every movement. This little girl was soundly asleep, probably dreaming of Santa's gifts. The surveillance camera catches a glimpse of an elf peeking at her multiple times. It had multiple attempts to come near her, bouncing all over. The father caught the elf sleeping beside the little kid and thought he saw the elf smile. What a wholesome clip. If you thought your cookies were safe in the cookie jar, you might need to rethink your belief after watching this clip. So basically, a kid woke up to see their elf on the shelf sitting next to several cookies that it had taken out of the cookie jar in the kitchen. The elf might have eaten some as the crumbs indicated. Luckily, the elf left some for the kids to share. This clip was captured by a spy camera, and it shows an elf on the shelf who's trying to escape the house. While it should be happy to be spending time with company containing other toys and dolls, this elf isn't so and decides to sneak around. This clip shows an elf on the shelf who got caught inside a toy BMW i8 coupe and started driving around the patio. The elf is not alone, as there was also a little dog sitting in the passenger seat. Now this is one of the most incredible elf on the shelf clips ever, because the elf must know that he's being recorded, but he still chooses to continue driving around and having fun with his furry friend.